Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're going to take a quick look at ADA, and just before we do, we usually look at Bitcoin, but I can tell you we're trading right around 49,000 here today. It's kind of a slight rally up from what, about 47,000 about 12 hours ago. So just bear that in mind. It's going to probably start tapering off a little bit. We shouldn't expect much more movement from Bitcoin, and that will effectively, impact coins like these. So we can see this little green candle here, just this little guy here. that's Bitcoin doing well today. If that makes sense, right? You can kind of see that. All right, so just before we get started, not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. I help people become better traders. I have a trading community. Link in the description below. I've been trading for a very long time. Check that out in your own time, of course. We are rolling out with the website soon as well to make that environment much more user-friendly and just ultimately a better experience for everyone. So be on the lookout for that. Now, for Cardano, it's been struggle busting lately. Okay, we can obviously see that. We also see that we had a death cross here, so to speak, on the 1 day chart. That's not really super relevant considering the fact that Bitcoin's calling the shots. But what's unfortunate and also relevant is the fact that normally Bitcoin, with Bitcoin kind of going sideways here, a lot of coins are doing that. Unfortunately, ADA is kind of more so retracing and it keeps going down, right? So we got to find out why this happens, or more importantly, how will it, when will the bleeding stop? So we can identify that in a few different ways. But for right now, let's go ahead and look at the obvious. So we got the moving averages. We've identified that death cross makes sense. On the 1 day chart, we've got 30 on the RSI, basically having tested a second time recently. You can almost see this head and shoulders pattern too, as well, on the RSI. So, or I guess double bottom rather, sorry. That's essentially what we're looking at there for the RSI. And the RSI is a good indication of, a buy signal in a lot of ways, because what it does, it helps us understand the relative strength. And if the strength is super low, then that's more so a buying opportunity, right? And the fact that we are kind of nearing the bottom of this, I guess you could say this pattern that we have with the Fibonacci retracement levels, I think we're in pretty good shape to see 120 as a likely bottom. Also note too, there's a lot of volume accumulation in this area too. So why don't we go ahead and pull up the volume profile? You can kind of see here, right where the price action is at, we see the strongest accumulation of volume here. That tells me we're gonna work that as a pretty strong support level. So is the bottom in at 120? Probably, because the simple fact that it spent the most amount of time there, what was almost like 3 or 4 months, right? All the way from February to July. Granted, there was some increase, of course, but for the most part, the bottom appears to be right there at 120, maybe even just say 105 is the lowest point that we could expect the price action. So can it go much lower? Yes. Should it go much lower? No, it shouldn't. So that's kind of a good sign there in that sense. Looking at the 4 hour chart, let's go ahead and see. We got the price under 50, of course, on the RSI. That's not super relevant just based on the fact that it's been retracing for quite some time now. We had a MACD on the MACD convergence on the 4 hour chart. Also not relevant too, because we just, ultimately we have this little increase from Bitcoin increasing too, right? Everything's kind of mirroring Bitcoin right now. So if you're smart, you'd become a Bitcoin professional and understand exactly what that one's doing first. Just so you know, that's kind of the important thing to kind of understand. I'll also have a separate video for Bitcoin. I like to dive deeper into that more recently, based on the simple fact that we're kind of at this interesting stage right now. But ADA is not looking fantastic, but it shouldn't get much worse, if that makes any sense. Let's see what this smaller time frame tells us too for the 1 hour. Ultimately, not a lot. We are above the conversion lines over the baseline. The lagging span's breaking up, and we're almost over the cloud. Those are all good things normally, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy based on that metric alone, because the fact that, again, Bitcoin is exuding similar behavior, getting resisted out by that second lead on the cloud, and we may not see it go much higher from here. So again, I would say use Bitcoin as a catalyst for how you plan to invest in ADA. But overall, I can tell you though, the big picture, more macro looks great for ADA in the general sense that it shouldn't go much lower. Could it go lower? Yes, of course it can. But if you look back at it, I mean, $1.20 was like a really, really good value even before ADA increased up to, upwards of $3. Okay. So you think about it. If ADA can get back to $3 and you get in at $1.20, that's 2.5, almost 3x, right? That's a good return on investment. And Cardano has more long-term potential. It's kind of like HBAR in that sense, where it's going to be kind of unique in the short term, but it's going to have a tendency of doing very good in the long picture. So I'd say ADA is more of a hodl coin, a coin you want to hold on to for a long term. It wouldn't be like a short-term swing trade, if that makes any sense. Granted, it could do very well in the short term in that way, because it only has room to grow almost, right? It shouldn't go much lower. But we got to be honest in the fact that, unless Bitcoin pulls its head out of its ass, we're not going to see a lot from coins like these right now. So I would just say dollar cost average. That's kind of my solution for everything right now. And I know it seems like kind of like a cop out because it's like, oh, just put money in it, right? Obviously, you can't afford it. Don't worry about it. But you should have roughly 25 to 50% of your portfolio available in either Tether or whatever coin you feel most comfortable with to be able to invest in dips like these, right? Because ADA is definitely a coin that's more long term. I'd definitely consider adding to your position right now if you can, if you have the opportunity, because it shouldn't go much lower, at least just based on the big picture and what I've seen so far. So there you have it. That's kind of where we're at here for ADA. We'll go ahead and take another look at this again soon, but thank you again to Jason for requesting that I cover this. There's one of my patrons. Thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Have yourself a great rest of your day.